What? No water slides? Stickers? What am I supposed to do with stickers? Hey everybody, Brandon here with some more Payne-ted Plastic. Welcome to episode 6 of the Master Grade Zaku build. And for this episode, I wanted to get on with the weathering. Before I started filming, I did a couple of things. I snapped all the armor pieces on the inner frame and gave everything a quick gloss coat, right? Just pledge, nothing fancy, just to get ready for decals and weathering. So that's where we're going to start this episode. We're gonna go around the kit, get some decals applied. Once they're on, it'll get another coat of gloss just to seal those in, and then we'll get on with the weathering stuff. So yeah, let me get everything set up here at the bench, and we will get busy on decals. Be right back. All right, everybody, decal time. Got some good news and some bad news. This kit did not come with any water slides. They sent us stickers. So, but not all is lost because we did get some dry rubs. The downside to dry rubs is they are not forgiving at all, right? Where you put it is where it is. So it kind of has to be pretty much perfect placement, right, the first time. Otherwise you're just scraping it off and it's gone. So, you know, good and bad, right? I prefer water slides to dry rubs just because they're a little more forgiving, but you can't get a better decal, in my opinion. In the end, it really does look painted on. So yep, good and bad. But let's go through how they work real fast. What you get is a plastic sheet. Here, I'll pull this back off. It's a plastic sheet with the decal sort of printed on the back, and it'll come with this little tissue paper that just protects the decal. So all you do is kind of cut out around the decal carefully, right? Just like that. And we take the backer off, don't need that. And then it's meant to go right here on the, like this is the front of the pauldron, right? And it's meant to go right on the end, just underneath of that that spike. So first thing I do is just kind of set it sort of generally in place, and then just work it around a little bit, get it exactly where I want it. Like I said, with dry rubs, get your placement before you do anything, because if it's not perfectly placed, it's going to be wrong. So that's the how does that look? Is that even? It's hard to tell sometimes. So then got it where I want it, right? Then I just take one of my pointy sticks. Really, you can use anything as long as it's not sharp. I typically will use one of my sticks though to do the rub, and you literally are just rubbing across the decal, right? You want to make sure you go all the way across the decal and get every piece. Whoop, and then the back just breaks loose. See? You can pull that off, and now you've got a decal. And like I said, for definition of decal and it looking like a painted surface, you really can't get much better than the dry rubs. It's a super thin carrier, so there's not a big seam around the decal. You know, really does look sharp. Like I said, the only downside is they are not forgiving at all. If you get it in the wrong place, it's in the wrong place. So next up, once all these are done, we're going to head over to the paint booth and give all the decals a really light gloss coat, just to seal them in, get ready for the next stage of weathering. So let's head over to the paint booth and start spraying some gloss. Alright everybody, back over at the bench. Gonna do some chipping on these parts now that the gloss coat is dried for a good while, about 24 hours, and it's nice and shiny, ready for the next stage, which is chipping. The goal here is to make this leg, I've got a leg and a foot here, look like this leg, right? I've already done some chipping on this leg and this foot, right? And we want to kind of do some of that now. There'll be two stages to the chipping. I start with the lighter color, which in my mind, the paint would rub away and there'd be primer under the paint, right? And then where the primer rubs away, like right here, it would expose, you know, whatever metal or whatever is underneath. So for the gray, I didn't want to go with like a primer gray or something dark like that. I ended up going with JN gray. It's XF12, and the reason I chose this is it's got just the slightest green hue to it. And as you can see, you know, it kind of blends with the yellow a little bit better than, you know, sort of a dark gray would, at least to my eye. I don't know, maybe not, but yeah, that's why I picked it, because it's just got the slightest hint of green, right? Overall it's gray. So I'm gonna use some unconventional tools this time around. I do have a ultra fine brush, right? And I'll be using that to go back for some bigger chips. But to start, I'm going to use a stick, right? Just a pointy stick. And the reason for that is this is kind of a small kit, so I want the chips to remain relatively small. You know, kind of think of it in terms of the scale of the kit. You know, the chips wouldn't be enormous on something this small, right? So we will go in, and all I do is just dot, right? I don't even know if you can make that out, but there's just a dot of paint, and then I'll touch it to my palette just to get off any excess. And the way I kind of go about my chipping is where the pre-shading is, right? I kind of consider that to be where the paint is already sort of weak and light. So for the chipping, I'll kind of start there, and I'm literally just touching the surface with the stick, right? Letting it blob and move however it does, right? Get another little blob. And there's no pattern, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just letting the paint go where it goes, right? I don't know if you can make that out. But as you can see, I'm kind of following that pre-shade line. Like I said, in my mind, it seems that that's where the paint is thin. So it seems like it would sort of chip in those spots more than, in the middle of the panel where the color is vibrant, and like it's not going to chip here where the paint's really good. It's going to chip over here where where the paint is light and you're kind of already seeing the undertone anyway, at least in my mind. Now when you're doing your chipping, you do it however you want to do it, right? There's kind of no right answer. Just want to kind of make it look natural, and like I said, sometimes I'll just do little drags, right, where you just let the stick hit the surface, right? You want it to look random, right? That's why there's no real pattern here, because the more random you kind of make it, the more natural it's going to look in the end, right? But this is all there is to it. It just takes a little time. It is time consuming. Like I said, I'm going to end up going around the entire model and just touching little paint chips here and there, wherever I think they should be, In terms of the foot, same exact thing. I focus on where the pre-shading is showing through, and that kind of guides where I do the majority of the chips. I'm going to have a big one right here on the side, and it'll probably be the only big one on the foot, just because I don't want too much, right? Like I said, the real trick on this is not to overdo it. It gets fun, right? And it's really easy to go too far and it not look realistic. On the bottom, I go pretty heavy. It seems like the bottom of the foot is going to take a lot of wear and tear, but I typically do like across the front edges, right? Seems like that's going to be in contact with the ground when they take a step or what have you. It's that's really going to get beaten up, so I tend to focus more on that than anything else. But again, there's no rules, that's just kind of in my mind. That's the way I see it. But there's nothing to say you can't do it a different way, or not at all. I mean, you don't even have to do chipping. You can paint clean models. Those are fun too. All right, there is stage 1 complete. Really fun to do, and adds a whole lot of character to your kit. And using a stick, right? Didn't even use a paintbrush. Of course, you can always grab a brush and do this, just randomly dabbing on. That's perfectly good. But you can get some really neat shapes and really kind of random patterns just using a stick, right? So yeah, give that a try if you're doing chipping. It's kind of fun to mix it up and just get some different patterns and shapes. We'll let this all dry, and then we'll get on with part 2 of that. Be right back. All right, here we go, phase 2. This is going to be where the first stage was where the paint's chipped off and exposed the primer. This is where the primer has worn away and exposed the material underneath, the metal or whatever it is. In my mind, it's iron. So I'm going to be using XF84 dark iron, right? And it's really pretty simple. If you look on this one, you'll see that I just kind of focus on the center of the larger chips, right? The little smaller chips, in my mind, the primer hasn't peeled away yet. So that's just primer. But on the larger pieces, maybe the primer's peeled too. And you're seeing some of that metal underneath, right? So that's what we're going to do. And just like before, pointy stick, right? Not even going to use a brush. Oh, all right. Whew. Uh-oh. My lid came undid. That is no good. I'm getting paint everywhere, y'all. Hang on. 1 second. Yikes. Got paint everywhere. Oh well. That's half the fun, right? Getting paint everywhere. Same as before. Got my little palette here. And just like the first stage, just going to get on camera and dot, right? Blob it off on the palette. Now, like I said before, I just want to focus on some of the larger chips. So like right here, I just want to go sort of on the inside of that chip so that it looks like the primer has peeled away and exposed some of that metal underneath, right? Maybe even this little blob right here. Maybe some of that primer has gone away. And again, it's totally random. I'm not really planning where the paint's going. Just kind of touching and letting the paint come off wherever it comes off, right? And like I said, it is sort of time consuming, but it's worth it to add a little extra detail and a little extra character to the model, because while somebody else may use a similar color scheme, right? No one else is going to have the chips in the same place that you put them, right? So it really kind of makes your model one of a kind to go in and do this kind of stuff. Yes, it's time consuming. Yes, it's tedious, but that's half the fun. Maybe a little bit right in here. That looks kind of big. There we go. All right, so that's the second stage, right? That's how we do that. Just, here and there, put a little color. It'll stand out, So I'm going to go off and do this to the rest of the pieces. And once this is dry, which I'll probably give it a good 24 hours so that's good and dry, then I'll go back to the paint booth, do another coat of clear, seal all that in, and get ready for the next stage of weathering. The next episode will be more weathering. We'll probably do a gunk wash. If you don't know what that is, stay tuned, because that's a lot of fun too. That's one of my favorite steps. But we'll get that done all in the next episode. So, as always, thanks for hanging out. Bye-bye.